Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, and all of our guests brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Seized yesterday, starting a homestand at Nat Bailey Stadium, a place our next guest is very familiar with from the 100% Hockey Podcast. John Shannon. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great, boys. How are things in Vancouver today?
Yeah, no shortage of things to talk about, John, in this city. As always, this season, what a crazy campaign it's been. Your reaction to Rick Tockett's departure, John?
Well, I'm not surprised. I think we talked last week and I said it was 50-50. So I had been given an indication from some people inside the organization that they weren't that optimistic about Rick coming back. And I think there's a myriad of reasons for it. And the bottom line is that, and this is something I think that we learn with professional athletes and coaches that have made a lot of money over the years, sometimes it's important to be happy. And right now, the way things were going, it gave the indication that perhaps Rick wasn't as happy as we expected him to be, and there are other things in his life that he wants to do.
Jim Rutherford yesterday said that the reason was that Rick wanted to be closer to family back east. I'm paraphrasing. But if you follow this team closely enough, you have to realize there were other factors, John. The Pedersen-Miller feud, the Miller's leave of absence, Miller getting traded. There's just so much. With no practice facility, there's just so much with this franchise. What do you think?
I wouldn't make the practice facility a big issue for the coach. I really wouldn't. I think it's probably more of a challenge on that side for the manager when you're trying to recruit free agents to saying, here's what we have and here's what we don't have. I just think that, first of all, I think that Rick would feel that he's in demand as well. I don't know. Do I expect Rick Tocchet to be a coach in the National Hockey League next year? Yeah, I do. And so I think that plays a factor. When you are a free agent and you have a good resume, you will work, and Rick Tocchet will work. So from that perspective alone, when you think of the challenges that this team has given him, plus the challenges of being in the Pacific time zone, traveling as much as a team does. It's a lot different than when he was the assistant coach in Pittsburgh. Certainly would be different than Philadelphia or Boston, where he has played and they have openings. So I think when you're at a point when you're suggesting that family is an issue, I think that they all kind of come together and say, okay, well, then I'm going to improve my position. The other thing, do not rule out, when I say he's working, do not rule out him going back to television. He made 7 figures at TNT. He made a good living sitting at a desk talking about hockey. And I can only tell you guys how much fun that is all the time. Sitting and talking about hockey is a nice life if you can make a good living with it, and Rick Tocchet was able to do that. He may want to do that. Our old pal Harry Neal, for all those years at Hockey Night, turned down jobs because he would literally turn and say to me, John, why would I take a job somewhere else? I go to the Stanley Cup Final every year, and I don't have to worry about wins and losses anymore.
7 figures. Do you have the phone number of anybody at TNT by any chance, John?
Yeah.
Do you know anybody there? So, okay, let's take out the Western jobs. Let's take those out of the picture. Vancouver, Seattle, Anaheim. So there's Boston, the Rangers, Philly, Pittsburgh, maybe Chicago. What do you think would be most attractive to Rick Tocchet? Most people think it's Philadelphia.
Most do. But, you also have to understand that Danny Briere and Keith Jones have a philosophy in mind, and I've heard it suggested that you do wonder if Rick Tocchet and those guys would have the same philosophy. I don't know whether they would or not. I'm really prone to suggest Boston. I think Rick Tocchet would be perfect in Boston. I think that they have enough on the roster with their good defensemen and Lindholm and McAvoy and Zadorov. They have a great goaltender in Swayman. They're in a bit of a rebuild there, but we had Don Sweeney on the show yesterday or Monday, and he talked about what's in the cupboard and what's going to change. And Rick Tocchet was a great Bruin. He loved playing in Boston. Rick Tocchet in Boston makes a ton of sense to me.
Hey, John, look ahead now to Vancouver. They gotta find their fourth coach in 4 years. Any guy coming here is going to ask the first question: is Quinn Hughes staying in 2 years, or he's going to bolt? They got to ask about the center ice position, which is a mess right now in the top six. There's not enough top six wingers. Is it really going to be that appealing to veteran coaches? What do you think happens with in the hunt for a new coach?
This is one of the elite clubs in the world, Rick. There's only 32 members of this club, and it's not growing for a few more years. There will always be coaches wanting to coach. There will always be coaches wanting the challenge of coaching in Canada. So I think it's an attractive job. And some guys love the challenge of being able to turn it around. I mean, can you imagine if you win in Vancouver? You're set for life.
I can't.
You're set for life.
Yeah, but it hasn't, John, it hasn't happened in 15 years, though. Except last year.
But I understand that, Rick. But if you believe in yourself, if you believe in what you can do, then that's part of the challenge too, and that's part of why you take the job on. I think that if they haven't got a list of 25 names now, I'd be shocked if they don't have it by Friday. Yeah. Now, some of the guys aren't qualified, but there will be a lot of interest in coaching the Vancouver Canucks, truly. And some will be veterans, and some will be guys that think they have never really deserved or received the opportunity, but they have deserved it. So I'm not really too worried about that.
Two of Rick Tocchet's best friends are coaching against each other right now, Travis Green and Craig Berube. Boy, that was obviously a big win last night for Travis Green. Are they getting a little nervous in Toronto right now, John?
There's no such thing as a little nervous in Toronto. They are nervous.
Yes, they should be.
They are. The bandwagon was full after Game 3. There might be a few extra seats on the bandwagon now.
Yep.
Listen, they got outplayed last night. They got outplayed. And so you do have to wonder what's going on. If they're, the classic gripping the stick too much in Toronto, and the Senators, quite frankly, have nothing to lose. Yep. You asked me last week if there was a story about the Battle of Ontario, and I said, you know what, maybe in Ottawa. Well, now it's in both cities.
Yep.
Simply because the Senators have won 2 games, 2 very important games, and it certainly looks like if there is any level of momentum, it's on the Senators' side right now.
John, let's go back a bit here. You mentioned you had Don Sweeney on the 100% Hockey podcast, and you alluded to this. The subject of the R word came up, rebuild. Yeah. And again, you touched on this, but this is a touchy subject around Vancouver. Is he okay with that? Would the fans be okay with that?
In Boston?
Yes.
Or Rick Tocchet?
Boston.
I think you had to be. I mean, if it hits you in the face enough times, you have to accept it. Mm-hmm. And they did not play well to a certain point, and then when they realized that Lindholm and McAvoy were both done for the season, and it just so happened it was before the trade deadline. It gave them an opportunity to justify what they did at the deadline. And some would argue they did probably better than any other team in the league at the deadline with the amount of assets they got for the guys they traded. Yeah. They traded Trent Frederick, got some draft picks back from Edmonton, and Frederick played 1 game in the regular season. Now he's back in the lineup now and might make a difference. But they seem to be able to do okay with that. I do think the only one they didn't really want to trade was Brad Marchand. Yeah. But there was an inevitability of it that they were going to get nothing for him. And guys, as you know, this is a business, and you better get something for an asset, and that's exactly what they did. I think you have to give the Bruins the benefit of the doubt in being able to realize at the key time with what went on there this year. Remember, this was a soap opera in Boston for a while too. Remember who started the season as coach? And he's doing Montgomery. Okay in St. Louis. Yeah, Tim Montgomery. So I think the Bruins are trying to regroup. I think they're trying to do it quickly, but they also have 3 very good defensemen and a very good goaltender to start with. So I don't think it's going to be as... And now, and by the way, just as an aside, everybody's pointing to Washington now as the blueprint of how to reinvent your team. Because look what they've done in such a short period of time.
They're not pointing to Vancouver?
Yeah.
They're pointing to Vancouver if they like beautiful weather, they like to ski and swim in the same day, and enjoy the most beautiful city on the continent.
And you forgot what the players are doing right now, John. Golfing. Thanks for this.
Yeah.
I wish I was golfing. See you, boys.
Okay.